All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our 13th live show of the year. Just going to be me tonight as we will recap all that happened in week 13, recap the college football playoff rankings that I believe are going to come out in a couple minutes. By the time I get to them, they should be out. And then we are also going to go over my rankings that I've done for the fourth week in a row, I believe now. So all of that we are going to cover tonight. And then hopefully on Friday, this is what we're planning on doing. We are going to have another live show on site at Neyland Stadium. That's going to be a big one for us. We are going to be on site for that game, Vanderbilt at Tennessee, one of the biggest games of rivalry weekend. Um, so make sure to tune into that because that one's going to be a fun one. We're going to plan on doing that Friday around. We're not sure the time yet. We'll let you know. But make sure to follow us on Instagram and all that stuff to get squared away with that. But that's going to be fun. But for right now, we're going to go over some of the games from last week. Maybe not the best slate, but we've got some games that is going to be big to talk about. So first up, we're going to be talking about arguably probably the biggest game of the week with playoff implications in mind. Oregon at USC or USC at Oregon. Apologies. 42-27. Oregon takes this one, kind of proving once again that they kind of do deserve to be in the playoff conversation. A lot of people kind of doubting them, including myself after the Indiana game where they didn't really play a whole lot of competition. And so you look at what they did here against USC. They just looked a lot more physical, I thought. Especially just up front at the O line position. I felt like they were uh, incredibly physical, and they looked incredibly deep. I know they had a couple linemen out from this game, but just they looked incredible. And I think the difference here, if you look at kind of some of the stats heading into this game or coming out of this game, uh, they were able to run the ball a lot better than USC was. 179 yards for Oregon, three touchdowns compared to USC's 52 rushing yards, no touchdowns. And then Dante Moore had a good game through the air, 22 for 30, 257, two touchdowns, one interception, compared to Jordan Mailata, who kind of had a shaky day, 25 for 43, 306, three touchdowns, two interceptions. It was a good first half, 28-14. US or Oregon had a good start, and then they kind of just carried that throughout the rest of the game. Uh, Noah Whittington had a great game, 19 for 104, 19 carries, 104 yards, one touchdown. Jordan Davison as well. So just really good game running the ball for Oregon, and then just a really weird game, special teams wise. Oregon again looked very sharp. Uh, look at you look at their third down efficiency, 7 for 12. Incredible. Just their offense looked very sharp, uh, which we hadn't really seen even up to the Iowa game. They didn't look amazing, but these two teams again, even with USC, they look pretty sharp offensively as well. It's just I think Oregon has a better defense overall, and I do think that Oregon has a better offense when it comes to just physicality and you know, it was a really good game from the sense of we got to see two teams who I think are top 25 level teams, but USC just wasn't able to keep up with Oregon, especially when it comes to running the ball. Through the air, I think USC is very, very skilled, and I think that's something that they can improve on next year if they keep Jordan Mailata. But something else that was kind of apparent in this game was the penalties. You look at it, 19 penalties overall between the two teams. Oregon did have 11 penalties for 130 yards, and then Oregon or USC had 8 penalties for 103 yards, and so that was very kind of shocking. Over 200 yards of penalties throughout this game. Um, Turnovers, 2 turnovers for USC, those were big, um, especially when you have an Oregon offense who really just was able to, dominate, uh, this team, and they both and a missed field goal, off a 9-play drive, uh, at the end of the half for USC, big interception, big, and it's just, huge implications, in that last end of the second half that Oregon was able to get, Oregon was able to get, those couple of points. So, um, yeah, playoff implications in this game. USC's pretty much out. This was a win and you're kind of in for USC, but they ended up losing this game, and so they're pretty much out of the playoff race. And for Oregon, this was a must-win game as well because you looked at how many teams are stacked up in the playoff race right now, um, with two losses, and you put yourself in that, and you don't have a quality win really, except for maybe Iowa. You kind of take yourself out of this game pretty quick. So um, very impressive win for Oregon. I think this kind of reestablishes, their playoff case, and I think even if they lose to Washington this week, I do think they now have a win that they can kinda put their hat put sit on and kinda just be like, "Okay, this is our win." And so, very impressive game from Dante Moore. I think Oregon, as the season's gone on, has gotten better, and they're gonna be a team to look out for because I believe they're gonna be one of those teams with a home playoff game, and if they win that one, then, they're just gonna be off and running. So, and great game from them, and I'm looking forward to see what else they do throughout the year. So, this is gonna be a good kind of warm up to the playoff, I feel like, for them because 'cause they're not gonna have to play in the Big Ten championship. They're not gonna have to do a whole lot of anything else, except for just beating Washington, and I believe that's on the road, so that's gonna be a tough test. But, I think overall, just a very gutsy win, for Oregon, and their offense looked incredible, along with their defense looked pretty solid too. So talking about defense, we're gonna move on to our next game. Believe the only other ranked matchup uh, s of this week 13 slate, and that is Oklahoma, playing Missouri. Missouri had to go to Norman, and, this was just this was a huge second quarter for OU, and then they were able to kinda stand on business in the second half, and, or Missouri came out swinging with a 3-0 lead, early, and it was kind of a punt fest, the rest of the, way until, uh, Oklahoma was able to connect on that Isaiah Centega, big bomb from John Mateer that and being probably the biggest play of the game, looking at it as, an 87-yard touchdown pass. That was huge in this game. It's kind of a slant over the middle. Just kind of shows you how well Satega is and how well he's played throughout the year. Um, and then another touchdown drive coming off of a pretty bad punt, from, from, um, from Missouri. So, I mean, just a big second quarter, and then after that, it was really just Oklahoma's defense able to shut down Bo Perubala in this Missouri, uh, offense. You look at the, fourth quarter, of this game, punt, 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 downs, punt, interception, end of game. Just a bunch of punts. Really just kind of a head scratcher. I mean, this kind of you could see this offensive shutdown come from Missouri. I mean, Bo Perubala coming off an injury, uh, but Oklahoma's defense just looks really solid, um, and especially coming after a game where they let Alabama have 400 yards, through the not even through the air, just overall. And so that game they really focused on turnovers. On this one, it was more of just shutting uh, Missouri down. They were still able to get 2 turnovers, I believe, in interceptions, but, I mean, this team's just very solid when it comes to, the defensive side of the ball. So John Mateer, 14 for 30, 173, 2 touchdowns. I mean, really not that impressive, kinda like how he's played the rest of the season, but he's just able to kind of cruise along, and the rushing game again wasn't too solid, but their defense they're able to lay their backs on, and the defense is kind of was able to take hold of this game. And for Bo Perubala, very sloppy, 20 for 36, 231, 2 interceptions. Ahmad Hardy shut down. That was the key to this game. Ahmad Hardy just came off of a 300-yard game against Mississippi State, and for him to get shut down to 3 yards a carry, Huge game for this Oklahoma defense. This is one of the hurdles they had to take um, hold of. The next game they play LSU. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of a break for this Oklahoma team. I think this Missouri team was the biggest challenge they had left in their schedule, and so for Oklahoma, again, this was a big win, and I think if you told this Oklahoma anybody really, an Oklahoma fan, anybody that Oklahoma was going to be in a driving seat for the playoff, people would have been like, "You're crazy," because they had a insanely tough schedule. I mean, even Missouri, just I mean, that probably was gonna be a close game. I mean, 11 points, but still, very shocking to kinda see how this Oklahoma team has taken shape, especially when you looked at them at the start of the season, where it was more John Mateer centered, and the defense was kind of an afterthought. And now you've seen how they've won the last 3 games, kind of off of mistakes, living off of turnovers, more of a defensive, mindset to this team. And so just very impressive from Oklahoma and Brent Venables fighting adversity after John Mateer getting injured, and now their defense really able to take most of the slack. Um, so very impressive game from Oklahoma, and I think Missouri. This wasn't even really a year that they looked on to where you would have them being in the playoffs. So 7-4 is nothing to sneeze at, but I do think, uh, there could've been a lot of improvement, and I feel like this team had a lot of potential, and as the season went on with, injuries and such, just a kind of a disappointing way for the season to end for Missouri, but, overall, Oklahoma played an amazing game, exciting to see where they go from here. Um, 3rd game I want to cover, and this is kind of a, this is gonna kinda be a short one, but Tennessee beating Florida in the Swamp. This was a game that a lot of Tennessee fans and a lot of people overall just, uh, kind of were looking at, throughout this game, and, I'm not gonna take too long on this game because, if you watch the game, you know why. It was a blowout, 31-0 uh after the halftime. Tennessee did not score in the second half, and they didn't need to because they were up 31 heading into the third quarter. Uh, this was a dominant performance from the offense and the defense of side of the ball for Tennessee. A lot of questions heading into this game. Would Tennessee be able to not make any mistakes, not make any turnovers? Uh, they were able to do that. You look at what they were able to do on the offensive side of the ball, and they really controlled the game. 35 minutes time of possession, almost 36. The defense was able to just shut down Florida. Um, and this is a big kind of game looking at it because Tennessee had not won in the swamp since I believe 2003. Uh, but just really efficient offensively, and that's been what you've wanted to see from Tennessee throughout the year, just because of just they've had the potential to be great on offense, but some of their, mistakes have come from interceptions and turnovers. They weren't doing that today. You look at it 9 for 13, on 3rd downs. Total yards, they had over 450. Limited the penalties, limited the turnovers to 0. They rushed the ball insanely well as well. Deshaun Bishop had a great game, 24 carries, 116, 2 touchdowns. Uh so overall, this was a great game for Tennessee, and now they go to play a Vanderbilt team that's going to be ranked at least top 12. I think so. I haven't seen the rankings just yet. We will in a minute, but just great game from Tennessee and Florida. Not really much to comment on, but this was a really kind of a, if you could call it, trap game for Tennessee, and they were able to fit the task very well. So and now it's a big game coming up for Tennessee. You kind of wonder maybe if a couple things happen, I think there could possibly be, a little bit of something in the waters for Tennessee playoff wise. We'll talk about this more in our preview show on Friday, but you know, it's going to be a big game Saturday, and we're going to be there. So again, if you did not catch the opening, we will be at Neyland on Saturday. That's gonna be a fun game, top 20 matchup. Um, College game day maybe should have been there. Not gonna argue with them, but, great game coming up. So make sure to tune into the Friday show. And something else I wanna touch on really quick before we get to maybe the rankings and, my rankings is the ACC drama that is unfolding right now. If you did not watch Saturday, if you're watching the Tennessee Florida game and you did not watch this beautiful game, um, I feel like Pitt at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, 16th ranked in the country, 9-1. They're playing Georgia next week. All they got to do is beat Pitt, and they're in the ACC championship, and then they got a chance to beat Georgia, and really boost their playoff stock. Um, and maybe they were sleepwalking. I don't know. But kind of like I said before, Pitt's a really good team, and they went into Bobby Dodd and they just destroyed Georgia Tech. Um, they were up 28 nothing early in the second quarter. Mason Heitschel looked great, 20 for 27, 226, two touchdowns. And they were without Desmond Reed. It didn't matter. Jakiron Turner, 21 carries, 201, one touchdown. He was amazing. Georgia Tech was not able to stop it, and that's been my concern with this Georgia Tech team is that their defense is paper thin. You can put all you want on Haynes King, um, and how great he is, but this defense just is not good for Georgia Tech, and so it's very concerning. Um, when you look at when they play Georgia, now they're most likely out of the college football playoff unless they beat Georgia, uh, and they're out of the ACC championship. This was a big game, and they just did not come up to the task. Uh, Haynes King threw two interceptions, a deadly almost pick six as they were coming back, 28-14, and they throw that pick six. Oh, that's awful. Heading into the fourth quarter, you're down 35-14. That's not ideal. So very bad. Haynes King led passing, rushing, just as he usually does. Jamal Haynes not able to do a whole lot. You need him to do a good amount if you want to succeed on offense. Just very, very disappointing from this Georgia Tech team. You look at third down efficiency. They weren't able to do a whole lot there. 3 of 14, 1 for 4 on fourth down. If that tells you anything of how desperate they were to win this game, but a big 56-yard touchdown from Jakiron Turner really put this game on ice with 5 minutes to go. This and turnovers really were a big part of this. Um, it was just kind of inexcusable. A mix of a lot of things that were good for Pittsburgh, but just very impressive game from them. They were able to capitalize on a lot of big plays in this game, and it was very just a very successful day offensively. They were able to go up 21 nothing before the first quarter ended. And they were able to get interceptions, punts, downs. Brent Key aggressive as always. But even Pittsburgh had a couple mishaps, a missed field goal here or there. I mean, just very impressive game from Pitt in the sense of winning this game when they needed to, and now they're in the ACC championship race still. Um, I think there was a clip a couple last week when Pitt was about to play Notre Dame where Pat Narduzzi said that he really, I mean, this game was big for them, talking about the Notre Dame game, but they were kind of looking forward to next week at Georgia Tech because that's a game that counts in conference play. And when you're playing in the ACC, all that matters is winning that conference championship because you're probably not going to get an at-large bid. I mean, Miami's 9-2; they're not going to make the ACC championship unless something crazy happens. But well, actually, now I think they're more likely to. But they might not make the playoff right now if they don't win the conference championship. So just a big. It's very important to win the conference championship in the ACC, and so this is a big game for Pittsburgh. And so now let me get to what I really want to talk about, and that the ACC is crazy right now. You look at every other conference championship right now, and it's kind of shaping out. I mean, the SEC is kind of up in the air, but it should be Texas A&M, Alabama, if Alabama takes care of business at Auburn, which we'll get to on the recap and in the preview for next week or for Friday, because that game's going to be at Jordan Hare. So you never know. At the Iron Bowl at Jordan Hare, but pretty much every power conference has their two teams. I mean, Indiana, Ohio State, if everything shakes out, Texas Tech, BYU, if everything shakes out, Alabama, Texas A&M, if everything shakes out. But the ACC's got 3 teams with 1 loss. They've got a couple teams lurking in Georgia Tech and Miami. There's 5 teams alive in the conference championship race. Miami and Pitt play each other, so whoever loses that game's out. Georgia Tech's done, so they can't do anything else. So they're probably done. Virginia plays Virginia Tech. They should win that. But that's where the chaos really comes into play. If Virginia loses to Virginia Tech, which probably not going to happen, but it could. It's at home, so you would hope that they would win that. But if they lose that, it's going to be a Pitt versus SMU conference championship game. And Pitt and SMU should both be ranked, but you start to question, will there be a 2 group of 5 bids, or would the playoff committee let SMU come in? Which, if you look at it, SMU hasn't been that impressive. Pitt hasn't been that impressive. They've done what they've needed to do. But they just played Notre Dame and they got dog walked. So it's a very very weird race right now in the ACC, especially with Georgia Tech losing. I think the committee was kind of banking on Georgia Tech just winning out in the ACC, losing to Georgia, and winning the ACC championship. But now there's a lot of questions because the highest ranked ACC team might not get in. A lot of things might happen. So very interesting. And you look at the 2 group of 5 teams right now. James Madison has a great chance to just win out North Texas. I mean, they've just got some turmoil with their coach leaving for Oklahoma State, but that could still be a big team that kind of maybe steals a playoff spot. There's one group of 5 team that's going to get a playoff spot, but maybe one could steal the ACC's bid. Who knows? I have no clue. This is a big week for the ACC. Miami needs to beat Pitt. Virginia needs to win, and Virginia needs to beat SMU so that they have at least one team that they can put their hat on and be like, okay, this is a team that we're going to say is going to make it. So anyway, that's doing that for the ACC. I'm looking to see what teams make the college football playoff rankings or not. And I believe we can go ahead and look at some of this here. These are my live kind of live rankings that I'm seeing right now. So a little bit of a shakeup from last week. So we're just going to go through this right now as they come in. First off, Arizona at 25 is what I'm seeing right here. Okay. Tulane stays at 24. Georgia Tech at 23. They drop down 7 spots. Pitt moves up to 22. That makes a little bit more sense, even though they have one more loss than Georgia Tech, I guess. Actually, having SMU and Pitt above Georgia Tech is, I don't know. Look, because SMU's 21, Pitt's 22, Georgia Tech's 23. Don't really know if I agree with that because Georgia Tech's still 9-2. And you've got 2 ACC teams that are 8-3 ahead of them. Maybe that's because the committee thinks that those 2 are going to make the ACC championship. I don't know. Arizona State at 20. I don't agree with that. Um, Sam Levitt's out for the year. I don't think that team's strong. But okay. I don't know how they move up from unranked to 20, but okay. Um, Tennessee at 19. They could be moved up. Actually, no. I think they're fine where they are. Virginia, 18. I believe that's okay. Um, so that's I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's right. Um, um, okay. USC 17, Texas 16, Michigan 15, Vanderbilt 14. Okay. Those are all fine. I did like Vanderbilt's performance a little bit more than Utah's. Utah almost lost last week. And Vanderbilt looked very solid. Um, so I might have switched those up. Miami's getting closer and closer to Notre Dame, if you're looking at it. Um, that's something that's very interesting. Um, I don't know about that. Um, Miami's that's something that's going to be very important in these next couple of weeks is seeing if Miami can jump Notre Dame. I think that's very most likely what's going to happen. The Pitt Miami game is going to be very decisive to see. But if they both went out, is Miami going to jump Notre Dame? They're getting close. It's 9-12. If Alabama or BYU loses, it could get very close. Is all I'm saying. So I think you look at that stuff, and it's just I don't know. It's a tough call. Oklahoma at 8, Notre Dame 9, Alabama 10, BYU 11. I think these are all kind of the same rankings. Um, I apologize. Let me try and find the rest of the rankings. There's still like a couple left that I'm looking for. I believe they just started it like 9 minutes ago. So I'm looking for them. Um, Hold on. All right. We're just going to move on. And then we will go to the rest of the rankings. So, um, still 7. I can imagine where those teams would be. But we're going to go to my rankings here and we're going to see what matches up, what doesn't. College Football Corner keeps on providing you weekly rankings um, throughout the year. This week's no different. By Cooper Stevens, that's my name. So, not as big of a week I saw in my rankings. I'm doing them a little bit different this week. I'm just giving you 25 through 10, and then I'm going to give you or 25 through 11. Typo on my part, but anyway, here is 25 through 11. Number 25 is Pittsburgh. I think they are. I think we saw what they could be against Notre Dame at home. In a game that gets hyped up, you have game day there and you get dog stomped. And I think they do beat Georgia Tech. I think on the road that's impressive. But when you're talking about playoffs, when you're talking about winning a national championship, I think we saw what they could be against Notre Dame. And so I'm still going to give them a little bit of a boost here in the rankings of 25. That I think that's good enough for them right now. If they beat Miami, I'm having them move up. But I think SMU has the most impressive win when it comes in the ACC, maybe along with Louisville when they beat Miami. So I have them a little bit above Pittsburgh because they're kind of in the same category of teams. 8-3 in the ACC. I think right now that's what suits them best. I have Tulane at 23 right now. At 9-2, I think that's okay. I believe that's where the committee has them. They might have them at 24, but I think that's suitable for them. And then I have James Madison and North Texas at 22 and 21. James Madison almost lost to Washington State last week. But you know who else almost lost to Washington State? Ole Miss. Look that up. 24-21 was the final for Ole Miss there. Um, I put them down one because I just didn't like the way they performed last week. And I think North Texas, I think if you look at how they played Washington State, they beat them by 49. So I do like Drew Mestamaker. I think there's a little bit of question there with how involved is the coach now that that he is left now for Oklahoma State, but I still think there is a little bit of hope there for North Texas. I have Georgia Tech at 20. I think them being at 9-2 should give them a little bit of credit, just rankings wise, but I think they're kind of dead in the water when it comes to playoff hopes. And I'm not going to rank them. I'm not going to rank them below Pittsburgh and SMU just because Pittsburgh and SMU are still in the ACC championship race. I think that's kind of dumb by the playoffs committee to rank them ahead of Georgia Tech. I mean, I get maybe Pittsburgh because they beat them, but SMU, I don't think so. Tennessee at 19, I do think they improved themselves a little bit against Florida. And so I think that's a big game for them. And now they get to play Vanderbilt, and I think that's going to be huge for them. USC at 18, I think that's appropriate. Yeah, I didn't see anything that made me want to drop them a whole lot. I believe I had them at like maybe 17 or 16. Um, but that was an appropriate ranking I felt for them. 18, 17. Texas had a good win against Arkansas, but now they got to play Texas A&M. And I think even if they beat Texas A&M, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs just with how much chaos is kind of in that 10 to 15, 16 range. So I don't think that they're going to win, or I don't think they're going to win against Texas A&M, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But 17 is okay for me with them right now. 16, I have Virginia. They're slowly moving back up in my rankings just because they haven't lost yet. I still don't have a lot of faith in them, but they're the ACC championship frontrunners right now, and they still have a chance to make the playoffs. So that's kind of crazy. But I have Miami at 15. I've moved them up just a little bit. They did have an impressive performance on the road against Virginia Tech. That was my main worry with them. Was can they perform well in the in on the road? And so them doing that kind of proved to me, okay, we can move them up a little bit. Michigan still holding strong at 14. I think they got moved up. Maybe I'll have to look, but pretty solid for them. And then I kind of mentioned this. Utah did drop one because of how they played against, I believe, Kansas State. That was a shootout. And so I do think that that's going to drop them a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're still right there on the cusp of the game of the playoffs, and I think they're still a solid team. Vanderbilt at 12, they had a really good game against Kentucky, but it was Kentucky. They're big prove-it games against Tennessee. If they beat Tennessee, they're in. If they lose, they're out. That's going to be a really exciting game to watch in person. BYU at 11, they've got another prove-it game, and it's against Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. If they win that, they're in. If they lose, they're out. They did have a good win against Cincinnati that I was kind of looking at. But right now, I think for them, 11 is the appropriate ranking. So now let's move on to the top 10, which really I think remains unchanged. I wanted to maybe move up Oklahoma and Oregon above Texas Tech, but I kind of felt that was unfair to Texas Tech because they had the bye week. So I wasn't going to do that to them. And I felt like, Oklahoma and Oregon were kind of just proved to be where they belonged. So I think that's appropriate. I still think Alabama over Notre Dame is appropriate because guess what? Alabama has a lot more impressive wins than Notre Dame does if you look at their resume. And so I don't think punishing Alabama for losing late in the season is as important. And I do think the Florida State loss should count, but I think Notre Dame just hasn't had that many impressive wins, even the Pitt win. Not that impressive. And I believe the top 5 remains the same as well. But a big week, rivalry weekend is probably going to shake that up just a little bit. So, big college football weekend. I'm going to look real quick and see the college football playoff rankings as they remain pretty much unchanged in the top 7. Ole Miss at 7, Oregon at 6, Penn State Texas Tech at 5, Georgia at 4, Texas A&M at 3. Oregon did jump Ole Miss from their win against USC, but other than that, not really anything to look at. Just kind of head scratching here from actually kind of processing it now from 20 to 25. Arizona State moving up 5 spots. Arizona moving up, Tulane staying where they were, though. I mean, it makes not a whole lot of sense. And not ranking North Texas or James Madison this late in the season, I think they really are wanting Tulane to win that game. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. Big weekend coming up, though, for us and for college football. So if you did not see it, we're going to Vanderbilt, Tennessee. That's going to be a very fun weekend for me and the boys. But it's also going to be a fun weekend of college football. So we're going to try to do a prediction show where we make some of our picks and also recap Texas A&M, Texas, or Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Going to be a fun one. Make sure to kind of tune in. We're going to try to set up right in front of Neyland. So that'll be something to look forward to. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this one. Make sure to go check out our Loudest Moments videos. Our LSU one is up. I'm going to make another one in a little bit. So make sure to look out for those. Turn your noties on, dude. Make sure to follow our TikTok, our Instagram. Instagram's where you're going to get some updates. I'm going to start thinking about maybe posting some posts on YouTube, kind of reminding you of when the live shows are going to be, because I know we've got a good amount of people on YouTube now, about over 200, so we appreciate that. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, like I said, and we will see you Friday.